Hello YouTube, welcome to my first video here on the Econ Unpacked YouTube channel. My name is Shane, founder of Econ Unpacked, and today I would like to discuss this book here, Shredding Paper by Professor Michael Hillard. The book follows the rise and fall of the mighty paper industry here in Maine. At its peak, Maine had about 25 paper mills in operation and employed roughly 20,000 people. Um, Shredding Paper itself is a page-turning scholarly analysis of this industry, and it tracks it from before the Industrial Revolution to the stagflation and rise of financialization that are prevalent in the 1970s when Wall Street gets a hold of it. Um, Many people here in Maine, myself included, have family members or know people who worked in paper mills at one time or another in their lives, and some of us even know people who worked there from the time they graduated high school all the way until retirement. So, a very dominant industry in the decades here in this state, and Hillard does a great job of explaining the innovations in production and harvesting capability that really allowed the industry to shine. Some of these are the Fourdrinier machine. That was a key invention. It was invented in stages by the French and British around 1800, and it makes paper, so it is a paper machine, and it makes it in a four-step process. In addition to this, there's also wood pulp, specifically the sulfite method, which was devised by Benjamin Tillman, although ground wood and soda pulps were widespread and commonly used as well. And then lastly, um, also the Feller buncher. Uh, this is a logging machine essentially, and it first saw Maine woods in 1966 and became the standard over the 70s and the 80s. It did require over a decade of experimenting to adapt this technology to the uniqueness of the Maine woods. Um, so very interesting to learn about the innovations that even allowed the industry to bloom and flourish in the first place. Um, the industry itself, working in a mill, is a very dangerous environment, and the employees did get paid above average, but they had to deal with daily circumstances of humidity, heat, excessive noise, dangerous chemicals, steam danger, heavy machinery, not to mention stressed out coworkers and superiors, supervisors. And these circumstances were endured 11 to 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. Additionally, the workforce was essential for responding to machine breakdowns. Even minutes of downtime on these machines was extremely costly due to the lack of production and the lack of paper getting created. The work itself consisted of sporadic bursts of dangerous, intense effort, and sometimes having little to do for days at a time. Workers were forced to climb into active machines which were spinning between 1,500 and 3,000 feet per minute with little to no PPE, personal protective equipment, and this was to limit the machine downtime to achieve greater profits. It was extremely dangerous to the workers, of course, and one mistake could mark the difference between life and death and leaving your family alone. So definitely not a super easy job to have. And paper mills also change the actual smell of their environment and the town they exist in. You can tell once you know the smell if you're driving into a town if it has a paper mill. Um, what they created, paper, of course, is a highly sought after commodity. Magazine paper and other coated publication papers is what Hillard mostly explores. These were a luxury good, and demand for coated paper reached over 2 million tons in 1963, which is worth about $500 million, just shy of $500 million at $498 million. Hillard primarily follows S.D. Warren Mill in Westbrook. That is the centerpiece of the book. S.D. Warren opened in 1854 and employed about 1,000 people at its peak. Um, Hillard masterfully explores the socio-economic decline of S.D. Warren after its peak when it was sold to Scott Paper in 1967. The sale to Scott Paper ultimately led to out-of-state executive leadership and professional managers who had little knowledge of the demanding job that the employees endured, and they had a lack of empathy for how overworked the skilled craftspeople were. Um, this lack of empathy and little knowledge led to rising tensions that eventually boiled over. Um, Hillard does not only explore the negatives, though, he does discuss the good faith attempts that were made by the companies to mend these wounds. And the industry ultimately became dominated by mergers and domestic competition. Um, a very difficult industry to work in, and unfortunately, most of the paper mills have shut down. Although they were not the best for the environment, the rivers have bounced back a lot since the closing of some of them. Um, Overall, I would rate the book a solid 8.5, 9 out of 10. I will leave a link to my review of the book that I wrote about on my blog. That will be in the description. And then I will also leave down there a link to purchase the book from the official publisher, not with an affiliation link or anything like that, just because I think it's a good read. If you're into economic texts, I highly recommend it, but you don't necessarily have to be interested in economic text to find some value in it. Hillard writes in a way that's really digestible, whether you're an academic studying economics or not. You can tell that each word on the page is put there with purpose and intent. It keeps you engaged. It keeps you interested. It keeps you wanting to know more about the industry, more about what happened, more about how it can do a complete 180 and collapse from such a strong foundation. Um, and I think it's really beneficial for people to read uh, any text that involves economics because we live in a time where much of our lives are shaped by our understanding of the economy and our place in it. And whether we like it or not, we are directly involved in it. You're kind of thrust into it when you become an adult and you have to find your way and make your stance in your stand to provide for yourself and keep a roof over your head. So we're all a part of this system and we need to understand it, the history of it, and the present state of it to understand where we should go and what the future of it should look like. Um, I also write on my blog. There will be a link to that in the description. And I'm looking for an artist to work with that's affordable. If anybody is interested, just so I don't have to use AI anymore for my imagery. I appreciate you stopping by. Please feel free to leave any comments. Please like the video, subscribe. Feel free to leave feedback. And until next time, thank you. My name's Shane. This is Econ Unpacked. Let's continue to make the world a better place, one conversation at a time. Thank you.